Okay, hello, it's Paul Green here from the business community. We're doing another one of our Spotlight on interviews. We do these regularly each week. And this morning I'm joined by Dan O'Connor from Clock and Compass Coaching. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Paul, and thank you for inviting me along today.
No problem. Glad you could be here. So we're going to give you a little bit of a grilling and learn a little bit about you, I guess, as a person and as a business. So you're, if my research is right, you're now a coach and hypnotherapist. So do you want to say a little bit about how that came to be and how you ended up doing the role that you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, maybe starting out with a little bit more background in terms of who I am personally, if that's okay, Paul, because that kind of leads nicely into how I've arrived at where I am today.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Dan O'Connor. I was born and brought up in West London, youngest of 6 children, so quite a big family. 4 older sisters and a brother. So, you know, all of my childhood, schooling, and my first 10 years of my work life were all based in the hustle and bustle of London. Then I moved to Northamptonshire in the late 80s and joined in early 89 the company that actually turned out to be the last company that I would work for, the Snap-on Corporation, with a head office based in Kettering. So I enjoyed a successful career with the company, spending more than 28 years with the company in the financial services sector, until I decided to take the leap of faith, and left them in 2017 to become a full-time student, with the intention of starting up my own business. So I studied for 2 years with the coaching academy, where I qualified as a professional personal performance coach, and that was in 2019. And at the same time that I was studying the coaching diploma, I also studied for a year and qualifications in person-centered counselling, which again was very important for me because it's very much about individuals, working with the individuals and the connection, the rapport, the relationship. So, you know, as well as the studies, you know, I just feel that during those 2 years, you know, I not only learned a hell of a lot about coaching and counselling, I also learned so much about myself, so much raised awareness and reflections, you know, learning more about my personality, why I do what I do, my values, my beliefs, and just so much more. You know, it was a real deep and valuable journey of self-discovery for me. Just a little bit more personal information about me. I've got 2 amazing grown-up children. Both my daughter and son are both qualified teachers. So I don't know, maybe there was something in the genes for us to be leaders and to help others to grow and develop into their best selves. And I guess finally on the personal front, I also became a proud granddad for the first time in 2019. Not that, of course, with everything that's going on, much time can be spent with any of my family. But hey, hope for the future. But so yeah, that's kind of the personal side of who I am. My business, as you say, is Clock and Compass Coaching. I kind of say Clock and Compass Coaching and hypnotherapy now, and I'll get on in a little bit as to why hypnotherapy has become an important aspect of that as well. So, you know, I work with individuals either through coaching or hypnotherapy on an area or areas where my clients are looking to make a positive change in their lives. So just for an example, through my coaching, I work with clients on areas such as career change, confidence, self-belief, motivation, project planning and completion, fitness, well-being, and improving work-life balance. Because certainly I know from my 28 years in the corporate world, my work-life balance was pretty much all over the place, really. There was a balance, but it wasn't the one that I wanted.
Yeah, it was in the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was it like then coming out of the corporate world and going into the sort of small business world? Because I know for some people it can be a bit of a shock. What was it like for you?
Yeah, I suppose initially, Paul, you know, the fact that I'd kind of mapped out and planned out spending at least 2 years as a full-time student, it probably changed the dynamic a little bit. Rather than leaving the corporate world and going straight into business, my focus was really on learning and development. Yeah, I mean, but even that, was still, quite a big change from being in an extremely high-paced, high-pressured environment that I was in within the corporate world, and managing and leading teams of people, to just kind of being there on your own and trying to even though I was studying, but again, it's still that management, it's still that planning, and it's still timing of things. So yeah, that was that took a little while. I have to say, that took a little while to kind of get my head around my mindset right around that, to be as effective as I could possibly be. And through the power of coaching or being coached, I didn't actually realize at the time, but every time I kind of got into situations through my studies where like pressure was on, and I was very much driven towards results, and it kind of drifted away from my purpose of learning about the coaching, about the counseling, but again, how that fitted into my life. And it was through coaching, really, being coached, that I learned how my default was corporate world thinking that I'd almost been conditioned to over the course of the 28 years that I've been in the corporate world. So it was a fascinating learning about myself around that, really.
Okay. Do you think that every business should have a coach? And if so, what do you think the benefits are of having someone that coaches you through your business?
Well, as I said, Paul, I worked in the corporate world, in the business, for a long time, and I didn't have a coach while I was in the business world, in the corporate world. However, I'm a firm believer that everybody would benefit from having a coach. And I have had my own coach. I'm coached once a month by my own personal performance coach, and that helps me to keep on track. It helps me with any projects that I have, any goals that I want to achieve, and make sure that, and I think this is a really important one for me, is just making sure that I'm checking in and that I'm aligned with my core values. So, I think that there are always things that in life we would like to be, do, or have, or change in some way. And I just feel that having studied, having coached hundreds of people now, and being coached, it's such a powerful thing, and it's such a major benefit. We kind of think that we can do everything on our own, but it's a lot of people fail in what they want to try and achieve, or they maybe get there, but get there perhaps not quite in the way they want to do it, or it takes much longer for them to actually achieve it. Coaching is such a powerful thing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in it as well. I think everybody should have some sort of external influence. That they can either engage someone like yourself, or if they can't do that, just find someone that even if it's just once a month, is going to be an ear to bend, a shoulder to cry on, somebody to bounce ideas off. I think most people will accept that running your own business, is quite a lonely place to be. You don't sometimes have anybody to turn to. If it's not going so well, sometimes you don't want to turn to your family. So, having sort of like an independent view from someone from the outside, I think is invaluable for most people. So anybody, listening or watching this, if you are at a small business and you've not got someone helping you, then just reach out. There's people, you'll probably find people in networking, other peers that you may have connections with, maybe ex-work colleagues, things like that, who'd be willing just to have a sort of monthly check-in with you and just make sure that you're on the right track. Or if you can afford it, I think it's a very worthwhile investment in somebody like Dan. So I ask people on these calls, what's your why? What sort of like drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning and motivates you to do what you do?
Okay, my why really is around, particularly the last sort of 10 years or so, in my work. I became less of a manager and more of a leader. I became more of a people person and very much focused on working with and helping the people that work for me, but also, you know, some of my peers, some of the other managers there, to keep growing and learning and developing, and how important that was, or that is. And you know, my why in terms of kind of why I left the corporate world, I suppose, is around, you know, it was clear to me that if I wanted to live a more balanced, happier, fulfilling life, that wasn't possible in the corporate world. And you know, the increasing demands, the expectations, the long hours, you know, and that all comes from being successful and being in a successful business, you know. And you know, this is a thing that kind of came to me, a quote that came to me around about that time that sticks with me, as do a number of personal development quotes. And you know, one of my favorites was, you know, create a life that you don't need a vacation from.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that is just such an important thing for me. So in terms of my why, I never lose sight of why I made that decision to leave a secure, well-paid leadership role of 28 years in the corporate world. And I was due for promotion to senior management within the next 2 years after I'd left the corporation, because my boss was retiring. And you know, every day, you know, I'm passionate and driven to keep moving forward, to keep learning and developing, to be the best version of me. And you know, and in that way, you know, I can help my clients in such a powerful way, and I get an amazing feeling of satisfaction when I can see the transformation in my clients, and I celebrate that success with them.
I think it's very rewarding doing the type of thing that you do, you know, when you do see that you've made a difference. And sometimes, you know, it's not rocket science, is it? Sometimes you'll say a little thing or see a little thing that will suddenly have a light bulb moment for the person that you're speaking to. You know, and I've had those when people have supported me, you know, and I just think that is so obvious, you know, why have I never and you get after the initial sort of like frustration and kicking yourself, you think, great, okay, now I've seen it, now I can move forward. So yeah, it's a very rewarding thing to be in. So there's a lot of coaches out there. There's life coaches, there's business coaches, there's business advisors, you know, all sort of like shapes and sizes. So what do you think makes you different from your competitors, would you say?
I would say what makes me different is that, you know, I've kind of been on this journey now, this personal development journey and growth, and for around about 30 years. It was 94 when I first kind of got into this through a management course that I did through the late great Stephen Covey, and just a different way of looking at life. So that's where I started invested in my own growth and personal development and learning. To the point where, you know, I feel that the work that I do is very, very natural. It's not like, okay, so I'm working with a client, I'm gonna switch the on switch on, I'm now in client working mode. Yes, of course, there is an element of that. However, for me, the work that I do, it's a way of being for me. This is how I am 24/7. You know, I don't need to kind of put that switch on. So therefore, you know, when I'm working with a client during a session, it's very natural flow. It's very intuitive. It's very, yeah, it's just got such a flow to it. And I think, you know, that's been helped through a lot of my life experiences and enhanced through my spiritual journey of self-discovery. You know, where I started attending meditation and mindfulness groups. And, you know, within a very short amount of time of doing that, you know, I found a real deep and inner calm and peace within myself, and in turn with the world around me. And, you know, I then took that a step further. First, and not everybody perhaps will have heard of Reiki healing. You know, I first received Reiki healing and then went on to study. I studied the history, the techniques, and I was attuned to the energies, passing my level 1, 2, and ultimately becoming a Reiki master. So very much about the energy side of things. And I know that's not something that I kind of put out there when I'm networking and stuff, but, you know, and you know, when I work with a client, it's not just about working with their mind. It's working with the whole of the client, of the person, their mind, their body, their energy. And I find that so important, is having that connection with a client where you are picking up on so many levels, not just, yes, I'm a coach, so you've got something you're thinking about, you want to change, I'll help your mind change that. Well,
Yeah.
it's as I say, for me, what makes me different is that I work with the whole of the person and not just one sort of element of it. And you know, just to excuse me, just to let you know, at the end of my final coaching assessment with the coaching academy, and I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted the person to assess me in all of my live assessments to be the director of the coaching academy, who's assessed like 10,000 plus sessions. And you know, he commented on the end of my final assessment, and I think this captured the essence for me. And it's a Carl Jung quote, and he said, "Learn your theories well, but put them to one side when you confront the mystery of the living soul."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe that's what I do.
No, I think that I get that. I get that. I mean, I think you have got to take all those things into consideration. You know, when you're working with someone, you know that there's no. I don't think there's any sort of like one formula or one theory that necessarily fits all. Of course, there are tools that I'm sure you use as appropriate when you're on that journey with somebody. But yes. I think you use the word being. You know, coaching isn't a doing thing; it's a being thing, isn't it? So it's being with that other person and being with that atmosphere, you know, that spiritualness of that person, whatever it is for you. So how we talked about there's a lot of I guess competition out there. How should someone go about choosing a coach? What sort of things do you think they should be looking for if they're looking to engage someone who's got sort of similar services to you?
I think probably one of the first things is, excuse me, and I think networking is as we know, Paul, is a very powerful thing. So, and I think that, you know, recommendations, word of mouth, I think, you know, that for me would be the first place I would hope that a client or a potential client who's looking for a coach would look, because, you know, one of the most powerful things is the fact that someone has worked with that coach and has been successful and can give you some background history and knowledge on that particular coach. Outside of that, you know, when you're looking for a coach, yeah, there's a lot of coaching directories. Obviously we can Google, we can look at websites and all the rest of it. I mean, for me, you know, I would probably look at, you know, how qualified is this person? You know, what is it that they do and that they've done to get to where they are to run their own coaching business or whatever it happens to be? Have they invested in their learning, growth and development so that it benefits you? Because personally, that's what I did. You know, I could have done an online course in coaching. I could have done it over, you see it advertised, you know, over X numbers of weeks or whatever. And, you know, when I originally set out to train, I set out to get this done in like 6 months and move on. 2 years, because I felt that's what it needed for me to learn as much as I could possibly learn and as trained as much as I could. So I think that's an important element for me, because let's not forget, you know, the industry isn't regulated. So therefore, you know, people can call themselves coaches with very little training.
Absolutely.
And I think that can be dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I don't really remember. We did a little survey on coaches, stroke mentors, stroke advisors. And interestingly, in that, of the people that responded, 55.6% of people had coaches, which I thought was quite encouraging. You know, I thought that was quite a reasonable sort of level. And then when we looked at what made people choose them, The ones that came out on top, some of which you've touched on, personality was apparently the top one for choosing the individuals they were working with. Experience was next. Methodology came into it. Reputation, the fact they've been referred also came into it. So, you know, you said word of mouth referral. That's very strong for any business. That was quite an interesting feedback to get, really. And I think a lot, and the biggest reason that people didn't have a coach was the affordability. So again, you know, if you can't afford a coach, as we said earlier, just go and find someone to, you know, have a little bit of an outside look at your business, check in with them, you know, over a cup of coffee when we can, or over a beer when we can, whatever it is for you, you know, just get that little bit of external influence, because I think you'll be quite surprised how quickly somebody can make a difference by sometimes just asking stupid questions about your business that just has you think about them for a while.
Yeah, and you know, going back to your first point there, Paul, you know, the personality and the relationship that you can have with your coach is vitally important. You know, and certainly one of the things that I look at very, very early on when I'm speaking with a potential client is you know, looking at building that rapport right from day one. You know, because it's not just about you know, does this coach have all the experience? It's about, you know, is this the right coach for me? Is this the right personality? Is it the right fit? Because that coaching relationship can be a very intimate relationship in terms of, you know, I've had clients turn around to me at the end of a session and say, you know what, I tell you things I don't even tell my husband.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so you've got to have that trust. You've got to have that rapport. That connection has got to be strong.
Okay. So are there any particular types of businesses or clients or individuals that you specialize in, like working with? You know, is there any sort of like target audience as such for you?
Yeah, I mean, my main target audience is really female based, as it happens. I mean, over the last sort of 3 years, through my training and through my business, I've had one male client, and I guess, you know, part of that comes down to the fact that, as I alluded to earlier on when I was talking about my personal experience and my sort of upbringing, and you know, I had 4 older sisters, so there was a lot of female influence around even from a very, very young age. And you know, I've just found that throughout not only my career, but also through all of my studies, in the vast majority, and I'm talking 90+% have been female. And that's my target market. Is that's not to say that I don't work with males, but that's my ideal target market.
It's not just your dashing good looks then, Dan.
If it was that, Paul, I probably would give up today.
So how do people engage with you then? Do they get a taster, or what's the first step if somebody wanted to sort of like try you out, as it were?
Okay, so the way that I'm set up, both through my coaching and hypnotherapy business, is that I offer a free, no obligation, 30-minute, what I call discovery call. And the reason why I call it a discovery call, it just allows me, but more importantly, it allows a potential client to get an understanding of what I do, how I do things, whether I'm the right person for them to work with. And, you know, they can ask me any questions, I'll explain the process. And, you know, it gives them the opportunity in that 30 minutes to make a decision. Like I say, there's no obligation, there's no cost to it. And that's really the first step. And, you know, one of the things when I was having my website set up, I wanted to make it as easy as possible for a client to connect with me. Because sometimes, you know, some people don't want to pick that phone up and make that first call. So what I did, one of the first things that I did on my website was to say, look, what I want is a booking calendar. I want somebody to be able to just look at it, understand what I do and think, yeah, okay, I want to go ahead with this. But perhaps don't have that courage to make that call, or just not enough drive to do that. And they can just click onto an available date on my calendar. I will receive an email. They've got a confirmation. The call is done.
Yeah, yeah. It reduces the barrier to entry, doesn't it, I guess?
Yes, yes.
So how have you found it now? Because as we're recording this, I think we're in, not sure it's called lockdown 3.0, but I guess it's the third bout that we've had. So, you know, physical contact is massively restricted. So how have you found your transition, I guess, of moving your business to sort of like video face-to-face coaching as opposed to sort of like physical face-to-face coaching?
I found the transition, well, pretty seamless for me. And the reason being is that, you know, when I was training through the coaching academy, we'd have training days. There'd be one in the north, one in the south. And so I was meeting fellow students from all over the UK. And, you know, you buddy up, you do reciprocal coaching, practice training, and all the rest of it. So even from day one, 99% of what I was doing in terms of coaching sessions were online. They were through Skype, they were through Zoom, they were through FaceTime, and some of them were on the telephone. You know, so you know, for the 3 years leading up to lockdown, that was the way that I used to have always sort of been used to doing my work.
Okay, so you were quite well prepared then for it.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between doing it online and doing it face to face?
Yeah, I think there. Yeah, I mean there are differences. I mean certainly if you're doing a coaching session, for example, face to face with a client, you can pick up on more of the body language, and you can pick up on a bit more of the energy, etc. You know, those types of things. But you find ways of being able to still do that effectively, as effectively online. And you know, if I flip it onto my hypnotherapy side of my business, if you think about the fact that if somebody's going for hypnotherapy and they're needing to travel to the premises of the hypnotherapist, they're going into an environment that maybe and if they're already, let's say, you know, they're anxious, they're struggling with stress, for example, that's not necessarily the best thing for them. So I've actually found that the hypnotherapy that I've been doing with my clients over this period of time has actually been more effective, because what's happening is they're now in their own environment. They're relaxed at home in their own environment, and therefore they are more susceptible to going into that very deep, relaxed state that is so effective within hypnotherapy.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So, as I said earlier, we're recording this during the pandemic. So that's obviously a challenge, I guess, for a lot of businesses. Outside of that, Dan, since you started your business, what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you've faced?
I think the biggest challenge for me that I faced when I started my business was, you know, I worked as in the corporate world for 28 years, so I was very focused, almost blinkered, I suppose, in some respects, on my area of the business, okay, which was financial services. So even though I knew all the other kind of stuff was going on around me, the sales, the marketing, there was networking going on, branding, you know, all of these things kind of happening around me, but I didn't really need to know about them because of the fact my job was focused on the finance side of things. So the biggest challenge for me was when I came into my own business was to learn about these areas as much as I could. So what I did was, after completing my studies, I signed up to a number of workshops through Semlet or Winter, however you want to call them, and also through the libraries. I tapped into the library resources. I mean, first time I met you, Paul, was at the BICP launch day. Yeah, where you did a presentation on networking. So yeah, that was the kind of stuff that I was doing, because that was a real big challenge. You know, okay, I know the finance stuff, but I don't know all of these other aspects of the business. And you know, I'm really, really grateful. I'm not just saying it because you're here, you're interviewing me, but to the business community. You know, I've met some amazingly talented people, small business owners. You know, it's enabled me to make some great connections, collaborations. I've received so much support through networking, one-to-ones, workshops, mentoring. Shout out to Marie Louise on the mentoring side of things, because she's done a fantastic job there. Really helped me, and employing the expertise from some of the other members, such as Trudy, for example, who was running the Wellingborough group. But yeah, in terms of my branding, my logo, website, stuff that I knew nothing about. So I think that's kind of been the biggest challenge for me.
No, thanks for that. Checks in the post. That's really my aim, and what I've tried to do, is just create that supportive community particularly for newer businesses as they come in, because like I said, so much that I think when someone comes out of corporate or chooses to be a small business, be an entrepreneur or whatever, I think that there's a lot of stuff they don't know.
Yeah.
And to just have a few more, maybe mature businesses around, just to test the water or ask questions of and things like that, I think it is invaluable. So I appreciate you found that valuable, and thanks for the acknowledgement. So you've kindly agreed to impart some of your knowledge with us, so I'm going to put you on solo and just allow you to do that, and then I'll see you on the other side in a few minutes. So the floor is yours, Dan.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so I'm going to refer to this as mind the gap, as all of you have travelled on the tube will kind of know that. But it's really around, from time to time, all of us through life, we've looked at things that we'd like to change or achieve, things that we want to do, do or have. And then sometimes when we look at where we are today and where we want to get to, can look so far away, and we can really struggle to see and get our heads around how we're going to achieve that goal. And unfortunately, as a result, a number of people, they give up on their dream because it just seems so distant, so far away. And, the reason why this happens is because the gap between where you are today and where you want to be is too big. It feels so distant. It seems daunting. Some clients say to me, I just don't know where to start. They feel kind of overwhelmed by it. I just can't see how I'm going to get to my end goal. So as a coach, it's important to me that I can help my clients to be able to connect deeper with their goal, with their dream and their why, so that they can imagine what that feels like. What is that going to feel like when they get across the line? And it makes it so real, so much more real for the client when they can connect with this, and it helps to increase the motivation. However, even that, the gap at that point is too big. So, an important aspect of my coaching work is helping my clients achieve their long-term goal. And in order to do that, what I do is I help them to break it down. Okay, so, and their long-term goal, in the vast majority of cases, that long-term goal will have a number of components. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you wanted to run a marathon in 9 months' time, because that's a long way out, and you want to complete it in under 4 hours. What I do is I help the client to break down the components that are involved in preparing and taking part in the marathon. For example, nutrition and diet, building up their fitness to run the 26 miles, the kit that's going to be needed for now while they're training, for the race, all the admin side of things, application, logistics, etc. So that now helps the client to see those components of their long-term goal, and it can help them to focus on the first step, a realistic, achievable, short-term goal. That may be around nutrition, it may be around the nutrition and diet, it may be around the admin or the application, or wherever they feel for them it's important for them to work on first. So now, through the sessions, they're focusing on something they can achieve in the short term, say in the next week or 2 or 3 weeks, that will move them to one step closer to achieving their ultimate long-term goal. So when they've achieved their first short-term goal, they will be more motivated to move on to the next phase, to the next step. Whereas keep on looking at that bigger goal so far away, that's where the motivation drops away from a client, and that's where people can give up. You know, so what I would say to finish this is, you know, never give up on your goal because it feels too far away or it's too daunting or you're not sure where to start. Break it down into manageable parts, realistic parts. Take that first step, and remember, you don't need to see the whole staircase for you to take that first step. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for that, Dan. Very, very valid point. I mean, breaking things down into bite-sized chunks, isn't it, really? Otherwise, that, what do they call it? The big, hairy, audacious goal or whatever seems so big, so big and so, you know, inaccessible that, you know, like I say, you've got to partition it. And as you say, unless you take the first step, you know, you're not going to be heading in the right direction, are you? No. So if you were to just to give, just to finish this off, if you were just to give one top tip for any business owner out there, what would your top tip be? Okay, so over the past year or so, as I've started networking just over a year ago with yourself, and through the one-to-ones, workshop, webinars, you know, I've heard the term so many times now. People buy from people, and how important that is to our business. So my one tip, really, and keeping on the theme of personal development, and growth and development is around that, really, because, you know, I look at me, what I've been through and where I've got to in life, and it's been such a key part of where I am today. You know, so whether you're employed, self-employed, you know, who we are, how we think, what we do, how we connect with others, it all comes from within. And, you know, many of us, you know, we don't think twice about spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds on a house, on a car, on a holiday. How much do we spend of our time and money? How much do we invest in our own personal growth, development, our well-being, our health? You know, and we can be so busy in life, and it's so easy to lose sight and disconnect from what matters most. And, you know, we can lose sight with our core values, you know, what really matters most to us in our lives. So, you know, I'd ask people to just, you know, they're watching this, to just take a little bit of time to, you know, for some quiet reflection, think about what your core values are, what the most important things are to you in life, and how aligned are you to the core values and the way that you live your life, because that makes that runs through the whole of what you do, the way you behave, the way you interact, your connections, etc. You know, and as I said before, you know, I'm a personal development coach, but I feel the importance of being coached all the time. So I'll just leave you with a quote from the world of personal development, and that is, the best project you'll ever work on is you. Yeah, I mean, certainly reflecting and looking at your core values, I think, is more important than ever right now. You know, in strange times that we're in, you know, it can be a struggle for people, certainly around sort of like their mental health and well-being, you know, being cooped up in your house and restricted from where you can go. So yeah, I think, you know, that connection, and, you know, certainly reach out to people, you know, not just from a coaching point of view. If you're feeling a bit down or lonely or whatever it might be, you know, just pick up the phone or just reach out to someone and you know, just sort of share your feelings with them. You know, I was speaking to someone that the other day that, you know, had a bit of a downer that particular week, and I just sort of said, you know, you could have given me a call. You know, we could have just chatted about it. We might have had a laugh. You know, just sometimes that knowing someone's there, you know, as I said earlier, you know, for an ear to bend or a shoulder to cry on, I think is particularly important in the current climate, in my view. Absolutely, Paul. You know, I'd agree absolutely 100%. And you'll recall from the last BuzzCon meeting a couple of weeks ago, you know, and yes, I happen to have the one-to-one with the person, the 10-minute one-to-one with the person that you've been speaking to. And to all of you guys, you know, if you ever feel that you're in that place and you want to talk to somebody, hey, give me a call. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, Dan. You know, anybody and everybody's time is valuable, so I appreciate you taking time out of your day to indulge me in this. So yeah, it's really useful to learn about, you know, how you got to where you are, your values and what you're about. So I appreciate that. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Paul, as I say, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to hopefully, give a bit of a flavour of who I am, what I do, and how I can help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.